ask you, I mean, everything you're describing right now, I mean, it's what you said, you called it a death culture. And it's not a political movement, it's not a religious movement. Hamas is something, it's not a resistance movement, right. It's something very different. Why does the world not get that still? Why do you think it is that they struggle to understand everything you just described?
Yeah, well, the world think Hamas is the outcome of occupation. And they think that the occupation is creating Hamas. I don't think so. Because how can we explain other jihadi groups throughout the region and the barbarism that we're actually witnessing now in Syria, the Syrian civil war, the Lebanese civil war, the PLO and other militias, which all of them are inspired by the Muslim Brotherhood, hatred towards the West, 9/11, October 7, the massacres. You know, this it's and again, if it was occupation, that's understandable. Okay, so there are the bad guys who became extreme. Let's say Hamas as outcome of oppression, right? Like let's agree with them for a moment. But what about the honor killing? You know, they've been butchering women on a regular basis, and they have been canceling women on a regular basis. They are racist towards the Jews. They're racist towards the black people. They are racists towards all the non-Muslims. Christians migrated everywhere else. Like my town is a Christian town. Nowadays you go there are no Christians. It's just a very small minority.
What town were you in?
Ramallah. Okay. So there's so many things. Corruption. Okay, they claim occupation and they blame Israel on everything. They raised billions of dollars over 7 decades. And what did they do with the money? Except corruption, bullying the people, oppressing the people. And you see them on the streets, especially after the return of the Palestinian Authority to our city. Our city was a very beautiful city. We did not have checkpoints. We did not have any of that. They start encouraging suicide bombing attacks. That backfired. So for people who on the outside, they can just say, hey, it's because of the occupation, and they are not willing to see that this is not black and white. It's paradoxical. It's a matrix of things. So the people who don't live there, they cannot make the connections, and the people who live there, they are afraid to speak.
Did you expect something like October 7th to ever happen? Could you have envisioned what happened on October 7th?
I saw things a lot worse than October 7th happening. Yeah. I mean, what would be worse than 9/11? It's the same group, same jihadists. October 7, 9/11, there is no difference. Motivated by the same Islamic ideology. So, did I see it happening in 2023? No, I didn't see it. I thought to myself, Hamas now is just busy governing Gaza. They're enjoying the money. Okay, they are bullying. You know, they probably like having all this military show to just try to bully the world, and they may launch a war. But I never thought, you know, they would just invade and commit a genocide against the Jewish people, like simply because by doing so, you're not only committing suicide. You're like literally. Decide on behalf of millions of Palestinians or Arabs in Gaza to total destruction.
Right.
Because, like, from my understanding, the Holocaust, and it's like the Jewish sensitive nerve. Yeah. Don't touch that one. And this evil people, they go to the worst thing, and they just repeat a modern day Holocaust. What are you expecting? What is going to be this is not just a terrorist attack. You know, the atrocities that they did. I don't know if you watched some of it. Not the things circulating on the media. I'm talking about the things that the families did not approve their release. I mean, barbarism in the worst possible way. So, and everything was caught on the camera. And Israel is not a weak country. It's a very powerful army. And every time Hamas started the war in the previous wars in Gaza, okay, Israel had to submit to the global pressure. Say, okay, civilians, very populated area, let's strengthen our fence, let's help them with economy, try to improve their economy. Israel could not open the gates for Hamas to bring all type of weapons from Iran, so there was a blockade, but that blockade was also from Egypt, not the Quartet also. It was the 4 countries responsible for the peace process in the Middle East, including the United States. All these countries sanctioned Hamas, and there was a condition, drop your weapons, recognize the state of Israel, and we're going to open it for you.
Right.
And we're going to pour as much money as we can to help you thrive and prosper. That was the condition. Hamas refused and kept the people in imprisonment for about 17 years. While investing their energy in building terrorist infrastructure. So now Israel thought, like, maybe for a second, like, okay, we have no choice. Okay, we have Hamas in the south. We need somehow to just accept that they are going nowhere, because to eradicate Hamas means large-scale war against Gaza,
like.
and we already see, and that's why everybody was trying to avoid it. And so Hamas came on October 7 and pulled the trigger, and nobody even know how this is going to end. It's not even over yet after 2 years. It's not just like a terrorist attack that you could say, okay, it's a matter of proportionality, it's a matter of, like, okay, calculated response. It's Hamas signed their death sentence on October 7. Yeah. And of course the world would see October 7 in the morning, then on that day, then it was obvious that they're going to forget, especially when there is civilian casualties. But Israel cannot, this time, this war, it was not possible to repeat the same mistakes in the past, to just let Hamas get away with their crime. It was not possible.
So why do you think it is that Israel can't explain that to the world? Like, what is Israel doing wrong in its messaging? Because as you said, October 7th, the world was with Israel, but within 24, 48 hours, the world saw the civilian casualties, saw that Israel invaded on the 23rd, whatever, a couple of weeks later, and turned against Israel. What is Israel doing wrong?
Maybe 2 billion Muslims around the world who hate the Jewish people, the Jewish minority, and maybe when they are using the social media, crossing all the political borders and cultural barriers, tweeting from Pakistan and from Iran and from the rest of the world with propaganda on behalf of their Muslim brothers and sisters. Muslims at the beginning of the war, they triumphed. It's like immediately on October 8th, they were celebrating in Australia, in London, everywhere. They thought that was a big victory for the resistance. And a couple of weeks later, when the ground invasion started, they start screaming genocide, genocide. So, and of course, it's propaganda. Many of it is lies. Even the footage that coming out of Gaza, not all of it is accurate. This does not cancel that there are no civilian casualty and children dying in Gaza. I don't think the numbers are accurate when they say 50,000 or 60,000. I am sure they're lying about that, because it's in their interest to exaggerate the numbers and fake the statistics, because they know the more they fake it, the more the global pressure will apply on Israel, and that may lead to Israeli surrender. 2 very dangerous weapons Hamas had: the use of human shields, their own people, weaponizing civilians, and on the other hand, the hostages. Right. And Hamas knew that these are like the 2 cards that would guarantee Israel defeat and Israel surrender. That they never thought that Israel would actually go that far, like 2 years later, and still fighting without declaring surrender to the demands of Hamas. So now, when this is the reality, this is because you asked me, why the world, why Israel? Right. Israel is not failing. It's just Israel at defense even in the face of propaganda. And Hamas lies depend on the strong emotions of the world.
Right.
A civilized world in the 21st century cannot see children dying like this and say, okay, the terrorists we understand, but bear the civilians. And what we are trying to tell them, you need to direct this message to Hamas and apply the pressure on Hamas, not on Israel.
Are there civilians in Gaza anymore? Do you think that there are such things as civilians in Gaza at this stage?
Look, I said this in the past, and it's a very, very dangerous statement. I said Gazan society has fallen from grace when a vast majority of people agree with such evil. Of course, you're going to find someone and a group of people, maybe a minority, who still at least disagree with what Hamas did. But unfortunately, after what Hamas did, it was too late, because it's not Israel's fault to just say, okay, we have a handful of innocent people there, so let's retreat, declare surrender, forsake our hostages, or basically release thousands of mass murderers in order to bring the hostages and become vulnerable for all Israel enemies from the north, from Syria, from Lebanon, from Iran, and just let's show that if we are attacked in such way, we don't have the capacity to respond if you are taking human shields. So it's not Israel's failure. It's not Israel's failure. It's the world's failure that failed to condemn Hamas from the beginning. Had the world condemned Hamas from the beginning as a barbaric terrorist organization, if Hamas had that kind of feedback from the beginning of the war, they would have not have this stubbornness and insisting on their method, because they think that the entire world is behind them right now.
Right.
And the recognition of Palestinian state, meaning basically like that Hamas violence strategy paid off.
Do you think there'll be a Palestinian state?
Never.
Never.
Never. And not a sovereign state at the expense of Israel sovereignty. There is no way in the world that Israel would allow that. And by the way, Western leaders who have decided on behalf of Israel, compromising the Israeli security and legitimizing terrorists, if they think this is going to lead to a Palestinian state, they're totally mistaken. In fact, I have a feeling that their recognition of Palestinian state will lead to only to one thing: the dismantlement of the Palestinian Authority. Even as a governing authority, they could just focus on that and focus on economy, education, and coexist with Israel as is, without just trying to create a hostile entity within the borders of Israel, inviting all Israel enemies and all the anti-Semites and even the ancient enemies of Israel to use this entity as a device or as a medium to just keep Israel in suspension, like all the time in a war, in a state of war. And this is not good for the Israeli economy. This is not good. I mean, enough is enough. Israel has been in wars with the surrounding countries, with Muslims, since its establishment, 77 years.
So what's the vision for the West Bank and Gaza? What do you see happening?
Arabs can coexist with Israel. There are 2 million of them within the state of Israel. Now, to have self-governing, I'm not against it, to rule their own cities.
Like municipal governments, kind of?
It could be like also an Arab federation.
Okay.
That is not concerned very much of borders and armies. If this is posing a threat to the state of Israel, especially that the Palestinians, they don't have a leadership. All those who claim to be leaders of the Palestinians, they are self-appointed. They are not elected.
Right.
They're not elected. And even when the world gave them the right to return after Oslo, it was conditional to actually seek peace. And instead, what they did, they encouraged suicide bombing attacks. And Hamas overnight in Gaza took over Gaza. That was I'd say, a mini state.
Yeah.
It was a mini state. And on one hand, they wanted terrorists to govern and be the rulers of the state. And Israel could not afford that. Said, okay, we could give the Palestinian Authority, who signed the peace agreement, we give them self-governing, but terrorists just literally had a coup against the Palestinian Authority.
Yeah.
So this could be repeated also in the West Bank. So, in my opinion, instead of trying to force Israel to agree on something that compromises its security, and after October 7, I don't think any Israeli leader would agree on a Palestinian state. So, what would be a middle ground? Arab Federation, where the world would invest in their economy, build infrastructure, and have a transitional period of time, let's say 10 years, 15 years, and let's see how they behave. Would they integrate, show responsibility? And I personally, I'm just tired of this. After almost 1 century of fighting against the occupation to free Palestine, especially when there is no Palestine. Palestine never existed, as a sovereign state, as a country, and Palestine is nothing but a colonial entity. And the irony to play the victim and pose as oppressed by white colonizers and pose as the indigenous of the land, while choosing a colonial entity, Palestine, as their national identity. Well, this is hypocrisy, and it's totally twisted. So you cannot have all of it. It has been Israel since the beginning of time, and Palestine it is the continuous attempts for the past 2,000 years, since the days of the Romans, when they expelled the Jews. They changed the name from Israel to Palestine.
Right.
Then later on, all the invaders, whether if they are the Turks, Romans, Byzantines, Muslims, Bedouins, Gypsies, sea invaders, all of them basically trying to replace Israel and expel the indigenous of the land. So when the Jewish people returned to their homeland after 400 years of oppression of the Ottoman Empire, that became a crime, and the world does not want to accept that. This is the land of Israel. Palestine actually is the false name of the region. So to claim to be indigenous, and the Palestinian history actually began just by the establishment of the PLO in 1964. There is no history there, and what's even worse than that actually the Arabs during colonial Palestine, they refused to be called Palestinians. They objected to be labeled as Palestinians. The Jews in colonial Palestine were called Palestinians, and they accepted that because they were under the authority of the British mandate, right? Yeah. So now for the Palestinians to say, no, we are Palestinians, some 20 or 30 years later, and make a monopoly over it and make it sound like ethnicity, while in reality it's nothing but a political violent movement that is but this shows you how falsehood is only leading to more chaos.
Mosab, why are there not more people like you? And honestly, how are you still alive? I mean, with this.
Well, I'll continue to be alive as long as I breathe.
Yeah.
All of us are going to die eventually. I'm sure there are other people, and one of the things that why I stand my ground, I educated myself on these things. Spent every day of my life, every moment of my life, processing the conflict, So don't think that the new generation of Palestinians, especially among Americans or Westerners, who just learned about the conflict just recently after October 7, or even in the past decade, they can defy half a century of experience in the depth of Hamas decision-making, depth of intelligence operation, counter-terrorism, etc. They cannot do this. And what I would like to, for the Arabs who live in the West Bank, to see that even though there are so many challenges and I had to go to fight against so many odds, I'm still standing. I'm still standing because it's a matter of education. So, and I'm just asking the Arabs.
I think it's a miracle.
No, I don't want to say a miracle, or it's just a matter of education. It's very, very simple. I asked the Arabs in the West Bank, what makes you a Palestinian? Why you identify as a Palestinian? You're identifying with the corrupt Palestinians who have been killing your children for financial and political gain. And then you say, I am a Palestinian. You're not a Palestinian. Your ethnicity is an Arab. This is your language, this is your culture. Palestinian, this is a new thing. And even if it was the old thing, the 2,000 years ago, that was made up by the Romans, empowered by the British. There is no even, the letter P does not exist in Arabic. It's only B. There is no P. So we're inauthentic or unauthentic. It's in fact laughable. Except that so many people are dying, and now we have
it would be laughable if it wasn't causing such tragedy.
Right, and now we have the new generation Palestinians, very dangerous, especially that they've never been here, and now they feel actually that they are entitled for an Israeli apology, and they actually feel that Israel must surrender to the new Palestinians from Japan, from China, from the United States, from the rest of the world. Everybody is Palestinian. Anybody who's wearing a keffiyeh, which by the way is an Iraqi thing, it's not even a Palestinian thing. So if you ask me, what distinguishes what so-called Palestinians? What makes them different than the Lebanese, than the Syrians, than the Jordanians, and the Egyptians? There is nothing.
So I want to ask you a few other kind of open-ended last questions before we run out of time. So, if you had the attention of the United Nations General Assembly just for 5 minutes, what would you tell the world about Hamas and about Israel's fight today? What would be that bottom line that the UN has to understand?
Well, the UN is part of the problem. It's not part of the solution. And even if I have that kind of platform, there are so many infinite forces at the United Nations that profiting from this conflict. In fact, the United Nations, UNRWA, take for example, is the biggest branch of the United Nations, the biggest budget. And what the UNRWA has been doing?
Perpetuating the refugee problem.
No, they're like just a bunch of parasites feeding off the refugee status. And they don't want the refugee status to end. But look, how much they give the refugees? Just very little, okay? And in the meantime, they are living in luxury. They're no different than the Hamas leaders in Qatar. Do you think this type of people fly commercial flights? Do you think they stay in 3-star hotels? Do you think they don't have, their salaries are just like very modest salaries? So the UN and UNRWA created the refugee problem, that now we have to deal with a third generation of refugees instead of actually taking all this fund and try to help the people move on. They keep the people in misery so they can keep their jobs. And if you go say, we don't want the UNRWA, they fight against you. It's like, because all of them, and what do we do later? So I don't consider the United Nations as actually a platform where I'm going to solve the problem. I consider the United Nations part of the problem, not the solution. And also the United Nations, they're not God. They were just established somewhere in the 1950s. And since then, they kept just deflecting. Now it's what their function is the opposite of the purpose of their creation. So why do I want to give them even legitimacy? Of course, this is dangerous to say, but as a free thinker, I don't even consider them as a legitimate authority to decide what is occupation and what's not occupied. So if we want to go to the root of the problem, So at least to these people, say, stay out of the business. And for all the pro-Palestine, the pro-Palestine worldwide, all the mediocres right now, opportunists, haters, taking advantage of this tragedy, projecting whatever their ill motives on the endless angry cause. And I say, you say fight the occupation. Who is going to fight the fight? You're like, basically, do you want from me, from the children, the Arab children in the West Bank and Gaza, to fight for eternity so you can satisfy your political ambition? You don't even belong here. Who appointed you to speak on behalf of the children? Yeah. And also, especially for those who claim to be Palestinians, and so many now, because it's a trendy thing, it's a successful movement.
Yeah.
But the essence of it is falsehood. I would tell them, have a little bit of mercy on the children. Enough is enough. We must break the vicious cycle of violence.
That the Palestinians in Gaza would listen to you, and you could deliver them a direct message. What would you say to them? What do you want them to hear? Those Palestinians living there right now under the 22 months of war.
Look, the situation now in Gaza is pretty much irreversible. It's, I am afraid that we cannot even go to the point of October 6th. It's not possible. Why? Because we don't want to rebuild Gaza in a way that suits militias and terrorists. This is what they want. They want Israel to surrender. They want to release their terrorists from prison. And by the way, most dangerous Hamas leaders are not the ones who were killed, and not are the ones abroad, the ones in Israeli prisons. And this is why Hamas want them released. So we can go to square one, where they can rebuild Gaza on the terms of terrorists that suits their agendas, where they're going to imprison the people for the next 100 years. So it's not in the Gazan people's interest to rebuild Gaza. Gaza is ruins right now.
Where should they go?
Earth is vast. Earth is vast. They can go wherever. But at least we must give them the freedom to choose. I'm not saying to force them anywhere. At least because up to this recent war, the Palestinian Authority and Hamas criminalized anyone who actually abandoned the cause and take compensation, sell their property, and move on somewhere else. And people have been afraid to do this, even though they really want to just get out. So they made this into a crime, even for those who wanted to escape the wrongdoings, the evil doings of Palestinians. They couldn't. So now I think the time has come. We must finish Hamas and give the people the freedom to basically go wherever they want to go.
So here's my last question, and I know then we're going to have to wrap up. You've obviously really risked your life to take this side. So in your view, what does it mean for others to do that, to take a side in this conflict? What is the core final message that you want the good people in the world to hear?
I haven't lost my faith in humanity, even though it has been very, very dark. My message, don't let the Palestinian ideology and the Palestinian indoctrination infiltrate your societies. It starts in a romantic way, then it's going to turn into a very, very ugly situation. Victim narrative and victimhood is not the foundation, especially of the Westerns and the Western civilization. It's all about resilience, about democracy, it's about strength. Okay, it's about the good fight, not about just victim mentality that will never bring peace or prosperity to the people. Victim mentality is a disease, and this is the very foundation. It's the very foundation of the Palestinian narrative. It's all based on victimhood. We are oppressed, and our fight is legitimate, and we want to continue like this for eternity. And the world now saying, yes, yes, do it. But what they don't know, that they are inviting violence and dangerous indoctrination to their front doors and to their backyards. And now when the moment they legitimize such thing, tomorrow the same mentality is going to turn against other establishments, because Israel is just another democracy, no difference between this democracy and European democracies. In fact, this democracy, I think it's a lot stronger than democracies in the West, with one difference, that Israel has been under constant terrorist attacks since its establishment. And this is why there are emergency laws. So with that said, my message, don't let them in. Don't let them in, because this is going to backfire eventually. I understand all the efforts of the good people in the world who don't want to see bloodshed. I am with them, but we don't want to blame the wrong guys. I don't know how Israel would have managed the crisis differently. And I am sure, at least in intention, Israel has the intention not to harm the civilians and minimize the civilian casualties. So if this is the reality, where on the other hand there are reckless terrorist leadership that has been sacrificing their own children for political and financial gain, then we may at least see this main difference. And yes, identifying with the tragedy, all of us, there is actually here, even in Israel, there is no mother that does not feel sorry for the children's suffering. But who to blame? The ones who sacrificed the children, gambled with their blood for their political agendas.
It's 2025. America's debt is over $37 trillion, and the dollar just had its worst crash since 1973. That puts your savings and your family's future at risk. That's why we trust Alpha Omega Gold, a company that stands unapologetically with Israel and supports Stand Tall Israel. Visit ao.gold/stand to claim your free precious metals wayfinder guide, or call 1-855-426-4653 today. Protect your future before it's too late.